Exactly.
basically it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of which, because Jeff Johns obviously did that. Did you see? Have any of y'all seen Wonder Woman 84 yet? The
Oh my
HBO
God.
Max.
Not yet.
Not
I did.
yet.
You
I
did.
did, and if y'all
Okay.
if y'all didn't see it, I'm gonna go
I did. That's why. Okay, so from your immediate reaction, so we won't. Yeah. Okay.
Ugh.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have not heard
know.
good things.
Yeah, that's
so.
what we're not gonna. Yeah.
Yeah.
2020 is like, hello, I'm still here.
2020.
Hello. Hey, I'm up here now.
Oh dear.
So
I feel like I guess with Wonder Woman happening, I feel like 2020 has just been a euphemism for that.
Last time on CiP.
And you say, okay, what kind of creature would they become? Ghost killer.
They know the secret of the stone, and they have their own.
Stone, yes.
Like he walks into this room and there are two creepy little girls.
I thought of The Shining.
This week, we are joined by James Boyce, a member of Party Nerdz. You can find James on Instagram at GrandmasterFAQS. That's GrandmasterFAQS. And you can find Party Nerdz with a Z on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
The glow of a
new cut.
Yes.
Of a new cut, exactly.
Yes.
Of a thing.
We live. Just throw that out there.
Yeah, no, of course. I want that to be the very first thing that comes out of this show is people looking at my forehead. Because why not?
Yeah.
But at least
it depends on what type of lotion you use, man. Don't worry.
Lotion. That's right. I gotta use lotion from now on. Good point. But who would know more about lotion than the Grandmaster himself, GrandmasterFAQS?
Good, nice.
Nice. It's not my worst segue. I've given worse segues.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
I will give worse today too.
Yes, probably.
So just a fair warning. This is one occasion that I have looking forward to. We wanted to. I mean, this is a very special occasion for us. This is our last episode of 2020. Thank God, burn this year in a box,
please.
But we wanted to also have for this final episode, for the year, have one of the greatest guests out there, one of the most positive beings in the interwebs and the social medias, James Boyce. So, aka GrandmasterFAQS, he's a Grandmaster himself. James, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you prefer James or GrandmasterFAQS, whichever is easier for us to pronounce?
James is just fine. FAQS is just a moniker that was given to me from the Party Nerdz because I read way too many comic books.
You do. You do. You and Nate are. I've seen Nate's stash. You guys rival each other. You guys both have very, very extensive stashes.
Yes,
which is good.
It's just that I think lately I've been siphoning away from the big two, and I've been just diving way deeper into independent comic books, which has just been now the forte. Because
do you have
check
oh no,
this guy
please
out.
go ahead. Sorry.
Good.
The guru.
Yes, check that guy out, Eric Powell. You'll love it. Sorry. All right.
I have.
Oh, I was just going to ask. Do you have a favorite indie comic book right now?
As of right now, I actually so I've been I read a lot of Stranger Comics. So there's this book called Assessa.
Ooh.
That I've been reading.
Oh, okay.
So more of a epic fantasy archetype, so it's based around a very little girl, motherless, fatherless, wandering like the unknown and searching for mentorship. And this is all driven around like the land of like orcs and elves and deities and everything like that. And I'm totally into that type of shit. So
nice. Sounds like my brand.
Yeah, so that's the big one that I've been reading right there. I got a bunch of those. Got a couple of omnibuses and everything like that. I think they are in development. Their Niobe character is in development with HBO right now.
Yeah, Niobe. Yes. Yeah, she got big. Yeah. Yes. Ooh. Yeah, which is awesome, which is great too, because it's a very different kind of a cultural kind of.
Because necessarily, I guess they from that standpoint, that whole Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings type of fantasy tales don't get told that often on a bigger scale. So I think HBO is just trying to find like another type of follow-up that they could like just throw in there. That's kind of like that bit to go with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a spicier version of like the Avatar in and of itself, that has a world building that makes sense, that has lots of you can tell have a lot of time to build it. Yeah, it's actually really good. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, cool. Well, what's funny about this is today we're not here to talk about someone else's book. We're going to talk about James's, FAQS. I'm sorry, Grandmaster.
I don't have a book.
Well, you don't have a book. You don't have a book, but you have a beautiful brain.
Yes.
And that beautiful brain has come up with a beautiful character.
Right.
And as I already said, yet. You don't have a character. You don't have a book yet. But that's what we're here for. You hired us for free to help you create a world and book based off your beautiful brain's beautiful character. So if you could please just take the floor is yours. Just tell us about your character and in their world.
So the character in which I put together is called Shango. It's pronounced Sango. Necessarily, he's a medium of the occult. So necessarily, like this is a person who serves through Earth as being in limbo, and necessarily he's the disguise that he uses is pretty much as you would see an elder Caribbean man operating probably like a spiritual healing or third world food store or anything like that, or where people can find natural herbs or anything. If you're in a metropolitan area, you see those or they call them alternative herb and spirits market stores and everything like that. So it serves as a doorway. So this is somebody who necessarily probably got banished from their dimension, who is a master of the occult, and is pretty much living in servitude right here on Earth. So he has come under disguise. He has like a Caribbean accent. It's about 6'1", light skin, probably like the wooden natural necklace, but has gold rings. Always dressed finite with almost like casual dress. Still wears dress shoes like you would see an older man wearing, but generally this person is in their 40s.
Right.
Slim athletic build, just like but necessarily people go to this person because this person has the ability to talk to the dead, and his market also serves as a doorway for people to speak to their loved ones, or for him to speak to his elders about the dead. So like the reason I came up with the name Shango is because it's me being my grandfather's of Caribbean descent. He's from Barbados, and they use Shango healers as kind of like deities. You don't see them that often, but they're still there. Like people often wonder. The African Americans that came here speak perfect English. The slaves that came over into America, they speak perfect English. Or the slaves that came over into Cuba and Puerto Rico speak perfect Spanish, or Hispaniola between the French in Haiti, or the Spanish that is happening in Cuba. But when you go to the Caribbean Isles, necessarily they were brought over by the English as well. They don't speak the same type of English as we do. They still have an accent. They still fuel that type of accent coming over from Africa themselves. So they have this very, very, very strong accent, even though it is English. But Shango in the Yoruba type of sense is the god of thunder, which many would perceive that to be Thor.
Sure.
But in the Yoruba sense in Africa, Shango is the god of thunder. And it's pretty much they have these things called the Orishas, who are like the most powerful beings, sort of like mythological creatures, mythological figures, sort of the sense of ancient Greece and the Roman gods, the Greek gods, and everything like that. So necessarily, you have the Shango. Shango is just I guess he's a conduit.
That's what I was thinking the word.
Yeah, he's a conduit
between worlds.
Between worlds, but he can bring you there.
Yes.
So this is somebody that you would see on your block also playing dominoes with a couple elders on the block, just like having a good time. But he's also very thought-provoking and knowledgeable and everything like that. And you may walk past this person daily and not even know it. And so like, or you may see him like going to buy like a bag of apples or something like that. But the thing is, the conversations that he strikes with you are just a little bit way more intriguing than anybody else.
Right.
He may be like a friend of your mother's. She respects the hell out of him, and she's known him since she was a little girl. And when you ever feel down, the person that she always sends you to for advice is Mr. Shango from the 144th and 28th at the alternative food market, because he'll set your path the right way.
I like that.
He'll get you to know your ancestors. He'll get you to understand ways of the world in which you may have not even fathomed were true. And he knows more about the intricacies of human beings than a lot of people don't necessarily know.
Okay.
So
he definitely sounds like he sounds like a god of the people, so to speak. The first thing I know, Nate is a fan of Neil Gaiman. There's a couple of stories that kind of James, are you a fan? I'm sorry, Grandmaster. I'm guessing you're familiar with some Neil Gaiman's work as far as like the
Eternals and Sandman. Yes,
and Sandman. Oh yeah, definitely Sandman too. So he sounds like a character like a Nazi American gods. That's one of the things he kind of reminds me. Obviously, a lot less hostile.
A lot less hostile. But also can be provoked as such, because he does have a hidden power scale in which he doesn't necessarily release unless he's around other people with that same type of power set.
And I was going to say too, because I thought of Anansi as well, and the book version is very different from the TV version. In the way he's presented, and so I was thinking of the book version. Because the book version seems much more like it kind of a similar style. But yeah, I like that. I think that's an awesome character.
Yeah, he's definitely there's a lot.
I love this character.
Yeah. This is definitely Ari's. This is definitely Ari's sweet spot right here.
Yeah. It's like the character you can build so many stories around because so many different types of people can talk to him, and there are different adventures and advice, and I love it so much.
Right. Because he could also be very much like a character that helps other characters. It's not always about his story or his journey. It's about how he helps other people on theirs. So there's definitely a lot of room to work with there.
There's possibly two ways that you could describe him. You could describe him in his setting on Earth, and you could also have him transform into his setting when he's pretty much in limbo amongst the occult, amongst everybody. Like he looks completely different.
Yes. Different forms. I think so. That'd be if we could. So as we're going to get into the story here in a bit, if we could find, it'd be cool. Ideally, we find a way to have it where we get a chance to see him in both forms, and we may even have Ari be able to draw both forms or what have you too. But yeah, that gives us a lot to play with, a lot to work with. So thanks a lot for sharing that character. And again, you mentioned earlier that you didn't have a book. And I like to prove to everyone that how wrong you are, because that is a beautiful book right there.
That's a really good start to one, let me tell you.
Hey, I can paint a picture.
All you need is a brush. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Sergey, are the die ready to?
They are ready. So 1d10, correct?
First is a D10.
I remembered. Yay. Okay.
You remember everything, my friend.
All right. So I'm going to roll 1.
Oh, murder mystery.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Murder mystery.
Okay. So let me. Wait, hold on. Okay. Then another D10 for the setting.
Yeah, for setting next.
Okay. 9.
Oh. I think I didn't swap this one out. So it was college. We did college though, right?
Yeah, we did do.
Yeah, it was for the it was a while ago. Yeah, we did college. Okay, I can swap that one out real quick. I kind of you want me to swap it out for a different one, or just
that's up to y'all. I can re-roll if you want me to.
I'll one second. Let me see here. What's next in line?
Yeah, swap it out and then I'll re-roll.
Because it's a short list. This is a shorter list, not as much as this is our shortest list actually. We only have 22. I will take what is next in line that we haven't already done. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yes, go ahead.
10.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so 10 is tropics. So,
tropics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that works out.
Yeah, that's pretty ideal.
Perfect.
It's pretty ideal. Okay.
Yes.
And then
time.
In time is the D4.
Yeah.
It's kind of funky.
And then we ignore 4 because it's the blind eternities. Okay, the past, number 1.
Perfect. Actually, okay, this kind of seems ideal. So just to well, the first one's kind of weird, but it's a murder mystery in the tropics in the past. And given they were dealing with essentially a god from limbo that has a liaison between worlds, and also more as a gatekeeper, not gatekeeper, but kind of a ferryman also. This seems very ideal. I do have some ideas already in my mind. I'm not going to say them obviously just yet, but I have some ideas that came to mind right away. So I have the list I have this time. I forgot to send myself. For those who don't know, I am 3,000 miles away from my house, from my regular place, my parents' place, and I forgot to send myself the abridged list of archetypes. So we're going with the old school D300 list.
All right. So what I will do is I will throw for the first 100, and then we'll do like what we do for those. Okay. Yeah, so 58. So
okay. I don't think we've done this one. Actually, we haven't. I don't remember. Have we done a manipulator?
No, we haven't.
We haven't, right? Yeah. So manipulator.
No, we haven't. We had like manipulative characters, but
yeah, we definitely have
the actual archetype.
Okay, this is perfect.
We've thrown that in on our own. The manipulation.
We do have. Yeah, we like those kind of characters.
Pushed us that way. Okay, so now we're gonna do another one. So
yeah, this is our final character.
Final character. 167.
That doesn't sound familiar. So let me see here. 1 second, sir. Documents. Okay, come on, baby. Come on, baby. Scroll for me. All right, 167.
Waiting with bated breath.
Okay. No, sorry. So it's ninja. I know we haven't done ninja. Straight up
ninja murder mystery passed in the Caribbean.
Very good.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That's fun. That's a lot of fun.
I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with this and where we go with this. My word.
Yeah, what a combination.
Yeah.
It's like getting the cheeseburger with the steak on top, covered in pizza.
So
sounds like a Friday night for me.
It sounds like Ari and I do hanging out. Okay.
Yes.
So perfect. So again, just to recap, the genre is murder mystery, which can be somewhat all encompassing. The setting is tropics. Ari mentioned Barbados. We can do Barbados if we want to. That's the time period is the past. Archetype number 1 or character number 1 is and how's the name pronounced again, James? Your character
Sango.
Sango. Sango. Okay. Sango is archetype number 1. Archetype number 2 is a manipulator, and archetype number 3 is a ninja. Now we can play a little fast and loose. We can have it that one character can inhabit multiple archetypes, or each one can do one archetype a piece. Okay. So real quick, Grandmaster as our guest. Hearing those things
at this point, his entire name is James. That's right, Grandmaster.
Thank you. At this point, GrandmasterFAQS, James, all those things. What are some of the first initial thoughts that you had hearing those things we rolled for? Just go ahead and kind of spit them out. Any ideas that came to mind?
The first initial things that I thought of was the origin story as far as the tropics are concerned. Generally, if somebody within the human realm was involved in a murder mystery, and there was a storyline where deities were involved and they had the ability to reach out to the occult or have the ability to talk to the dead, this character would come to play. You know, also, you know, looking at the manipulator. Now, where does that fit into the sequence?
I feel like you're looking to us as far as to give you answers. We don't have them. Yes. This is up to
we usually typically what we do is we create other characters, and sometimes we can have like a manipulator. So like we could have Shango be the manipulator if that fit. Okay. But other times we would just create another character that was a manipulator character, and then create another character that's like a ninja character. That's kind of basically how we would do that.
So the thing is, like, as far as a protagonist is concerned, like as far as like somebody who has maybe the ability to whisper something into someone's ear, kind of like the Purple Man from
That's what the first thing I thought was the Purple Man from Marvel.
That's the first thing. Tell them exactly what they need to do and force them to do it, even if it takes for them to harm themselves.
Yeah, of course. Because the beauty of this particular story or the environment that Shango is in, he is basically a god, more or less, right? He's a demon. Right. So because of that, the people that are in his sphere that he could be dealing with are gods as well. So there's very few limitations on what our characters can do in this story. But we can, of course, have them interact with regular mortals and what happens to them. But because of that, we have a lot of latitude. Nate, were you going to say something before I cut you off there?
No. No. Okay. If I did, my brain just.
So you had to build a bunk bed in an hour and a half. So I was thinking something. I was thinking something similar to James, where my first thought was essentially that Shango. I think I'm pronouncing that name wrong, but Shango is kind of like the Sherlock Holmes / Hercule Poirot / Luthor of this story, wherein he's either someone prayed to the afterlife or the heaven. Someone lost a family member, and the police have no idea what to do, how to apprehend this person, how to find the murderer. And the family members that are grieving, in their grief, they reach out and pray to the heavens, essentially. And Shango responds. And Shango takes it upon himself to try and figure out what might have happened. And this is in the tropics. This is, I guess we can say Barbados. We didn't establish it here, but it's in the past, basically. And you said an origin story. So this could be what kind of leads. It could be along this way that Shango finds the duplicitous nature, and essentially how the gods might be kind of harming innocent mortals just for the fun of it, and what it causes him to leave that realm altogether. So this could be the case that does it. Essentially, that's how I've seen it play out.
I like that.
Yeah, no, I dig that as well, because the way that I look at it, his character, when you told me to bring it up, this person probably despised the human race and what life is like on Earth for a time, but at some point in time, he felt that maybe because of the compassion that they hold for each other and everything like that, maybe it's okay to assist them every once in a while.
Right.
And I may find the means and the ways to do it.
Yes. You're right. So you already established that is part of his character, part of his canon, that he already does like to traverse worlds. So he could have been one thing we could do. We could double down on that, and have it actually that Shango may have actually in fact known this person, or at least known the family. And so
exactly
more. I'm sorry.
No. I was saying exactly like basically in essence of somebody not knowing who to reach out to. You might find somebody else of Caribbean descent who invokes prayer into the sky, not knowing who she's praying to.
Yeah.
But essentially somebody's listening.
Yeah.
And respond.
Yes. Perfect.
Kind of like the cause and effect. The reason that he takes action is because, and that's the weird thing about like characters with religious backgrounds and everything like that. Like you find that to be like super interesting. Like most of the characters that are brought up in religious settings generally have an act to despise people that they think that are below them in some settings. You see that in like Constantine and everything like that.
Yeah.
Where he not only despises angels, he despises demons in hell. He finds everything condescending.
Right.
Yeah. You know,
and vice versa, because they make it clear that the angels, Gabriel is the main one that is a Tilda Swinton place. Tilda Swinton clearly, even though she's an angel, hates mortals a lot. And she makes no qualms about that. So that tends to be the angle. And I guess what's interesting about this character was Shango, not to speak out of turn, but it seems like he actually does care about both sides. Ironically enough, he does care about both mortals and non-mortals alike. So it's cool that essentially, like you said, when people are reaching out with people with this family that he might know, actually he may have heard their prayers over the time over years. He may have actually in human form been hung out with them before. And so he actually does care. And so when this happens, when this tragedy happens, and he does hear someone crying out for help, essentially, and of course, all the other gods are literally ignoring them. He's like, you know what? I'll step up and do something, essentially. And so this may be, if you want to go hardcore the origin, which we could definitely do, we could have it that, because this is the past as well, have it that this is actually his first time taking on a human form. He could have been lying in limbo or lying in the afterlife, but this is the first time he's decided upon himself to come to the human realm. And this is when he needs to figure out some kind of an outfit to wear, a persona to have. Essentially, he's kind of figuring all that out in this episode, or this story, so to speak.
Right.
And so he's trying to figure out what's the best way. How can I look like I belong amongst these people in Barbados, but also seem respectable enough that people would trust me to give answers to or get information for them, essentially. So that's.
But in the same effect, it also probably exudes conflict amongst the other deities.
Of course.
To where possibly the finale, the climax of this whole thing is that he's banished to live amongst these people.
Oh yeah. He helped too much.
Yes.
That if you like them so much, why don't you marry him?
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah.
I was thinking
that. You love them so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's exactly what I was thinking, and I was thinking that something that he does in the solving of this mystery gets him banished. But I think what that could be is that the murderer is one of the other gods, and it could be a situation where because like God's killing a human, like what's a big flippin' deal, but if we make it that human was special, like there was something special, there was a deity thing.
What about a demigod or like an oracle or some kind of connective?
Yeah, demigod or oracle. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like that, but I also thought about too, Sergey, when you mentioned that, Nate. Sorry, when you mentioned that was the idea that we have a manipulator here. What if, like James brought up the idea, what if one of these other gods is the manipulator, and the gods are like, well, we're not going to actually. I'm not going to get my own hands dirty, but I will manipulate and convince someone, a mortal on Earth, to do my dark bidding for me, essentially. Mm-hmm. And also by doing that, it makes it so that it's that much harder to connect the dots, even no matter how much. When Shagun, you gonna say something, Nate?
Well, I was gonna say, maybe it could be that it becomes a dual thing where the manipulator convinces a mortal to kill this oracle deity or demigod, whatever, and that in and of itself is breaking a rule, because they had maybe made the gods had maybe made a pact at some point that said we will no longer meddle in the affairs of mortals because it gets too sticky.
Right.
And this guy does that, and so it gets him banished. But and that's what gets Shango banished, because he answered the prayer and meddled as well. So that's the thing that gets him.
Right. It's like an unwritten rule.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of like it's not technically illegal to sleep with your stepsister, but you shouldn't do it. It's very frowned upon. So
wow, One example.
What example? Ask Nate about that. Ask Nate about that in detail. But so we can have it. So we're establishing ground rules for these gods. Essentially, you should not, and they're not necessarily gatekeepers or watching each other like hawks. Mm-hmm. So the idea is a manipulator. Our manipulator character, and because we brought up the purple man from Jessica Jones, we can call this character like Tennant or David or something. This character. But you mentioned also in canon that you have that these gods, when they're on Earth, you can't tell them apart from regular people. They can look just as normal as anybody else. This is a murder mystery. We can have it that already on the island, on Barbados, we're seeing this person. And we have no reason to believe this person is from our perspective. When we first meet this character, we think it's a regular person. We don't think it's a god at all. We have no reason to think it's a god. And we never even see him speaking in tongues to manipulate this ninja character to kill off this other person. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, we can go with that angle, so to speak, because the whole idea is they're trying to remain incognito. So both our manipulator and Shangu are trying to remain undercover as best as possible during this whole scenario.
True.
Mm-hmm. And also, so it's Shang. And correct me if I'm wrong, James. It's Shango, right?
Yeah, it's Shango.
Shango. Okay.
It's
Shango. I was gonna more
Shango, but with
Shango.
Shango.
Sorry, Shango.
Even though it's spelled Sango, it's pronounced Shango.
Okay.
Shango.
Okay. Right. I just want to be
perfect. Sure. Okay. No, yeah, make sure I don't keep saying the wrong name. So Shango.
Pronounced 17 different ways in the next 20 minutes.
That's being modest. Okay. So I guess one thing to deal with too is, why would if you were seemingly an all-powerful god, or even just Loki, who's just an asshole that likes to manipulate and do tricks, why would you want to kill a mortal? You said they're a demigod, right? They're a demigod, or they're an oracle. Mm-hmm. That's who he wants to kill. That's who he wants. Right. I guess the oracle or this demigod, he sees them as a possible threat or someone who could give hope to Barbados at this time period. That's what we're going with, right? That's his motive. His motivation is just that he knows the potential of this person.
Or maybe the manipulator knows that there's a hierarchy where he's at, and he's pretty much ascending up in the ranks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And this is pretty much precluding to the fact that this kind of like messes up the balance of things to where he's not going to be on the top of the flagpole.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. If it's an oracle, oracles make prophecies, and if you prevent the oracle from making a prophecy that foretells this, hierarchy thing, you know where I'm going with this.
I was going to make that suggestion. I said we could go full Greek with it and have it be, like him trying to stop the oracle from making a prophecy, but in doing so causes the prophecy to occur.
Go for Oedipal. Yeah, go for Oedipal, basically.
Yeah.
So. I like that a lot. I like that a lot, actually. Definitely. So more or less, our manipulator, we call Tennant. Tennant gets wind of what the oracle is saying, fears this, and takes drastic measures to go down to earth amongst the people. And he seemingly befriends them, or she seemingly befriends these people, becomes one of them. So much so that when we pick up in the story at the beginning, we see them already with this family. The person's still alive at the beginning of the story. We see them, and they all seem like friends and family all together and close and everything. So there's no reason for any of us to suspect this Tennant, that he's in fact, or she's in fact, a god or a murderer. Mm-hmm. Okay. Perfect.
Okay, so I have an idea of the oracle, and maybe how that works. Maybe have the oracle. I'm thinking an oracle is like an old grandmotherly type figure who is into the worshiping of these gods and such, and gives these prophecies and does these and basically is like, hey, this is here's this is this is what's going to happen, blah blah blah. And then when she's killed, it's her family, like maybe her granddaughter, who was following in her footsteps, who is the one who gets Shango to come down and come in.
She makes the prayers.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Piggybacking off of that, Nate, I like that a lot. what if we actually have it that the oracle that is murdered, what if she's seeing lots of people in the community, and she's in the community, people come to her, they always ask her questions, she's able to answer them, and she looks them in the eyes and answers their questions for them. And we have our tenant character, he goes to her as well, and he holds her hand, and she looks at him in the eyes, and she kind of looks a little, and she can, in some way, without tipping her hand too much, she looks at him and says, "You've come from a long way, haven't you? You've traveled a lot." Basically, the idea is that it pretty much incites the idea that he has to, that she's legit and she knows too much for her own good, basically. It doesn't have to be a big thing, a big tip off, but just the idea that we show that we had to plant that seed for later on down the story, that that he was aware that she was real, basically.
Yeah.
So you see other people in the community getting prophecies or whatnot from her, and you see Tennant at her getting the same thing, and that's enough to tip him off, essentially.
Yeah.
So then later on in the next scene or whenever, when she ends up dead, it was established that was the motive was in place.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. All right. And like you said, Nate, the next thing would be we have the funeral scene, big, huge funeral scene, and everyone in the community comes out to mourn the loss of, let's call her GrandmasterFAQS. To mourn the loss of GrandmasterFAQS, and it's raining.
It's like Granny Weatherwax, but MasterFAQS.
but fewer records spinning. GrandmasterFAQS is everyone comes out to her big funeral in the rain, and that's when everyone, as everyone departs, we see her young granddaughter that stays there and makes her prayer over her grave over and over again, and just stays there maybe for days, keeps praying over and over again. And we see in the room, we don't actually see his face. We can either show his actual what Shango looks like, or give him kind of like the idea of like he's like kind of like a god looking down upon from a different perspective for several days over and over again. And after like the third day or something that he decides, I said, that's enough, I'm going down there.
I had a thought that, if this Oracle character, was as the real deal, as it were. I think it would be interesting if maybe having Shango and it could be something that we didn't know it at the time, but we discover that he was at the funeral as well, because she was a very powerful person that he was aware of and he was connected to in some way. And so he was there to pay his respects. And then he sees the granddaughter, and then he hears the prayers afterwards. And then
that's better. Yeah, that's better. I like that more. I like the idea of him, of a person on Earth, noticing her at the grave day after day after day.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of evokes him. And eventually, so we could have it. Do you want to have it go the route that, like on the third or fourth day, he sees the granddaughter kneeling at the tomb, and he walks over there to her. He kind of says, "So, how are you doing?" Kind of thing. He actually initiates contact with her.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. I think it would be basically be like, hey, come on, like let's get you warmed up. Maybe it's raining or something. Let's get you inside. Let's get you some soup and everything. And then he basically takes care of her and then gets her, like run down and everything.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I think the easiest way too is that he basically, like James said before, he's kind of like a therapist, a neighborhood counselor in a way. It may be that this is their initial meeting. They don't know each other. So he's like, tell me what's troubling you. And she said, it's my grandmother. And said, tell me about your grandmother, essentially. And this is kind of the part in most either noir stories or murder mysteries where a person pretty much paints a bit of a backstory, kind of saying like, on this night, I was with my grandmother. We were watching TV, or there's no TV, I guess, in the past necessarily. But we were doing our thing, essentially. Everything seemed calm. All of a sudden, I heard there was a break-in. There was a loud noise. I turned around, and my grandmother's there. Something like that. She fills in the gaps as far as what happened to her grandmother's, how she ended up dead, essentially. We can go over that later on, but she tells him there essentially what she thinks happened to him.
I like what I'm hearing already.
Perfect. And since this is basically, I know he's much more than a detective, but part of what Shango is doing is he's a man of the people. He's a god of the people, so he's able to kind of put his finger on the pulse and figure out what people try to understand what was happening in the community, essentially what people were happy about, or if GrandmasterFAQS had any enemies. If anybody would, why would somebody harm this person that it seemingly the entire community loved? So trying to get to the bottom of that, essentially.
So, but would he know that she was an oracle? Because I feel like that's pretty important. If he's tuned in with the community, especially with a religious section of the community, he would know who all the important figures are.
Yes.
So I feel like he'd probably get suspicious right away.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not right away, because if she was an older woman, then it could have been from natural causes. But then he discovers that that wasn't the case.
No, I think on some level it has to be we, the audience, aren't entirely sure that GrandmasterFAQS is in fact a legitimate oracle. So we're seeing the story kind of from the perspective of Shango. So he himself isn't entirely sure either. He's not dismissing it, but he's just trying to understand. He's meant to be a good detective. He's doing his homework and trying to research and make sure.
Right.
So he's inquiring.
Right.
He's inquiring.
And are we going to have this be like are we going to know Shango is a deity initially? Like are we going to keep that under wraps for the first quarter?
I would think it would. I would think it would be something kept under vest. But he probably only reveals it to the right people.
Yes, or even more. Yes, right people, but also even to the audience in the right way. Slow but wait, sorry, I can hear you saying something.
I mean, I think probably for if this was a movie or a TV show, perhaps the first episode or first 30 minutes or so, we don't know who this character is. He's mysterious, but I don't think it's a good idea to keep his divinity or his powers under wrap for so long, because this whole story is going to be so wrapped up in that world.
Yes.
I think we need to know at some point early on that he's not just a random mortal guy.
Yeah,
I agree. And there are definitely a few ways. I completely agree. All right, there are a couple of ways we can do that. We can show that he has some divine powers or abilities.
Well,
is it possible to have does he have contacts or friends who are also divine, just visit him, or he can hit up and be like, can you tell me anything about this? And then we, the audience, can observe and understand that. Wait, what? This is weird.
Yeah. So one thing I thought of, because obviously, as we established in canon, he is a liaison. Basically, he can walk between worlds. So
he could have it talk to who's ever is in the ground.
Yeah, he can do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Ooh.
We can literally have him. We can have a scene after he talks to the granddaughter in great detail. What have you? Get some soup in her. And have him as he's walking away from her, just casually strolling down the street, and all of a sudden a magic door opens up, and you see him kind of like an MC Escher type of style, the stairway. He walks into the afterworld essentially, and he walks into he actually finds GrandmasterFAQS, and he actually tries to talk to her. But now we could have a rule too where she doesn't know who killed her either, so she can't just give him all this information as far as it was over there with the brown hat, but she can say he can have a conversation with her.
Right.
Well, I was gonna say, so there's a couple of ways we could do this. I agree, and I agree with Ari and Ethan about how it should be revealed early. Though I do think it should be held back just a little, so so that way there's at least a little bit. I'm thinking end of Act 1 is the big boom. Oh wow, this guy can do weird shit. But I think with the grandmother thing, we can do it one of two ways. We could do it where the manipulator had the ninja, which we will need to address how we got a ninja in the tropics in the past. But I digress. But the manipulator had the ninja kill her in such a way which makes Shango unable to reach her. Via some magical thing.
Okay.
So that's option A. Option B is like what you said, Ethan. The ninja killed her in such a way where he goes like, "Hey, who offed you?" And she goes, "I don't know. I was sitting there making noodles, and then everything went black."
Yes. So I actually like your. Laurie, go ahead.
I have one more option. It could be all of those things which I really like, or you could do like D&D style rules where the dead person can only answer yes or no questions with yes or no.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that too. These all work.
It's a little less interesting, but I just as a third option.
It could be, we could add something where like there are rules like that, but not necessarily yes or no, like not that restricting, but maybe it's something like she can't speak about the gods or something. Like it might be like there are just overlying restrictions that the dead cannot do. Or speak about.
Well, that's part of it too, because this is a mystery. So if this was one big loophole is the idea that because this did originate from the inception as it started was from a god. So basically, as Shango is going through the back files of the afterlife, trying to figure out how to get to her, it's almost like something's redacted. Like you can't figure out, like, why is it blocked? Why can't I figure out, why is there a wall here? What's going on? Something is off here. And that's where it really gets the most intriguing, because he's like, something much bigger is going on here than it seems. This is not a regular haphazard incident. And it may have been that the way it was described, the way that the granddaughter described it, it seemed like it was an innocuous break-in or whatnot. It wasn't a big, huge thing. But that may have been the cover-up. The real murder was something else, was actually much more, deliberate, and the way they try to make it look like it was a random break-in kind of thing, essentially. But I like what you're saying, Nate and Ari, about the idea of, one, we do need to we could dole it out a little slower that he is, in fact, a deity. But two, that once he gets into the afterlife, there's rules as far as how we can talk to her or how we can find out, do the investigation.
I really like the idea of, the second act being him just strolling into the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that being, part of the reveal.
Yeah, and I love the idea of him actually literally having an investigation in the afterlife too. Like he's actually talking to other dead bodies.
Exactly.
Have you seen this person? That kind of stuff.
Like he's exhausted the meat space, real world, alive people investigation, and it's gotten him nothing. So there's nothing for it. He's got to go to the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I love the idea of seeing, like, because remember, there's no reason for our master manipulator to have left. He can manipulate any other people too. He could literally manipulate people in the meat space to lie, or say they saw nothing, or say that it was this person over here, or all other things. And it could be that Shango is starting to pick up on this negative energy, or he's realizing something's off here in the meat space world. Like that. I gotta try going to my realm and see if I can make more sense, make heads or tails of this.
Yeah, where the manipulator has no power.
He
has no power in this realm.
Right, where things seem to make more sense, at least to him.
Yeah.
Ethan, exactly. I apologize. I have to step away. I apologize.
No, you're perfectly fine. Actually, I think we're actually at 10:00. Perfect.
Yeah.
So
we can stop.
Sorry.
Yes. No. This is the end of Act 1. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cool.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. James. Again, I'm sorry, GrandmasterFAQS. Thank you so much again for joining us.
James is perfectly fine.
It's what it is Ethan.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank
James.
You. Yes,
no worries.
Thank you, James.
No worries.
Just understand that Ethan has a weakness for nicknames, so he always goes for them first. So just remember that. That's his weakness. If you ever need to overcome him, you can.
I appreciate
it. Subdue me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this was great listening to this. I mean, the brainstorming was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well, good.
Well, we'll say we'll have you back for part 2, act 2 and 3 as well. To finish the story up. Yeah.
Yes,
definitely.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Let me know.
Indeed.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Peace.
All right. Bye.
At Geek Insider, we foster relationships with those in the geek sphere so we can give our audience the insider view of entertainment, tech, and more.